Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Coffee with Carl. I am your host, Carl Zoellner, one of the attorneys with Anderson Business Advisors. And today I wanted to talk a little bit about the reality of anonymity. So if that's not a tongue twister for you, try saying that 10 times quick. But yeah, anonymity and the reality of anonymity. So number one, anonymity is a valuable tool. And for most of my clients I work with individually, we talk about it as a nice piece of preventative medicine because ultimately, if we're anonymous and we don't show what we're owning, we're sort of taking away the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow that predatory plaintiff and plaintiff's attorneys are trying to go after. So if they can't see if the juice is worth the squeeze, a lot of times you're not the lowest hanging fruit and they will move on before they sort of delve in and start to invest funds to try to go after your assets. So if they can't see your assets, it's the same reason that, basically homeless people or broke people don't usually get sued, is because ultimately there's a big difference, as Michael Bowman always says, between getting a judgment and collecting on a judgment are two very different things. And most attorneys, they don't want to be making grilled cheese sandwiches on their ironing board. So most of them are going to go after a lot of times the lowest hanging fruit. So ultimately, when we start talking about anonymity, it's a great preventative medicine tool. It is not the only level of asset protection we do planning on. And so ultimately, Wyoming provides anonymity. So we like Wyoming, but Wyoming also is the state that has the best combination, as you've seen in some of my other videos, of charging order protection, cost of maintenance, as well as anonymity as well. So yeah, ultimately we use that because it's the best combination, but the asset protection actually isn't really involved in the anonymity. The anonymity is a cool feature that is a preventative medicine. But if for some reason that preventative medicine doesn't work, you then have sort of the best protections in the nation in order to help preserve your assets and protect what you've spent years and years, most of you, building. So yeah, that's why we use Wyoming in that regard. But yeah, anonymity is great. And it's actually the best used on things like passive investments, like ownership of other business entities and things like that to help provide that layer of anonymity for things like active businesses. So say if I had a practice in Texas, number one is ultimately my license would be tied to it because I'm a licensed attorney. So is anonymity practical in that situation? Potentially, it still is, but ultimately, I would just say it's not the primary focus. So if you've got an entity like in Arizona, is a place that has some sort of kind of weird laws as far as PLLCs go and things like that, where you actually, even if you're a real estate agent, usually your name has to actually be associated on that PLLC as well. And so, I mean, ultimately, what are we talking? We can't do that with anonymity. So that's, like I said, there's more practical than not in some things, but mostly for passive investments, the anonymity makes sense. So like my brokerage accounts, savings accounts, syndication investments, things like that. Anonymity is awesome for that mailbox money, if you will. But yeah, active businesses, and especially businesses in states that require your name associated with them or licensing, anonymity is sort of takes a little bit of a back burner just because there's actual requirements involved with that. So just keep that in mind when you're having your strategy session. If you're a doctor or something like that, especially like in a doctor in California, you're required to have basically your business in a PC, a professional corporation, and your license is ultimately tied to that corporation. So ultimately, what you're doing is, like I said, it's just some anonymity is not practical, but certainly on the passive side of your portfolio or in that passive silo, in which I talk about in a different video, that ultimately is certainly able to be anonymous, and you should do it because, as I mentioned, it sort of takes away that pot of gold at the end of the rainbow for predatory plaintiffs and plaintiffs' attorneys if they can't see what you own or what the overall size of your estate is. So once again, thank you for joining me for Coffee with Carl. We like to keep it short here on Coffee with Carl, so usually right around about 5 minutes. So like and subscribe if you like the content. Share with a friend, please. Like I said, as we grow our content and grow our channels, ultimately it allows us to keep making free content for you. So yeah, please keep liking, sharing, and then would love to see all of you at a live event or an online event where we actually staff the question and answer as well, so that you can get live questions and answers as the presentation is going on online. So yeah, ultimately what we look at from just a quick re-summary here, Anonymity is awesome tool for passive investments and things like that. Just be aware there's a limitation to it when you're going to go out though too, and go out and introduce yourself, shake hands and make deals. You can certainly represent yourself as a officer or something like that of the business, where you don't have to designate that you own anything, but just be aware anonymity is not the end all be all. It's just a great piece of the puzzle to utilize, like I say. And for most of it, the anonymity is most valuable on the passive investing side of what you're doing for the, like I said, mailbox money. So just keep that in mind as you move forward with your investing career. And as always, if you're not already a client, if you're a platinum client, it's already baked in. Just pick up the phone and you can always just call or access our platinum knowledge room at this point, which is a really cool piece of what we're doing nowadays. Or if you're not a platinum client yet, please reach out and have a free consultation. And we are happy to get you caught up with your investing cohorts out there, so that you're on the same level and got the same level of knowledge. So until next time, thank you everyone. And I'll catch you on the next episode of Coffee with Carl.